Welcome to this first new creepypasta. Let's start. When I was 14, my parents rented a house in northern Pennsylvania for one winter. Nobody stayed there long. At the time, I didn't know that. Dad said it was temporary because his company was transferring him to another branch and the house was cheap enough to survive 6 months. My mom hated the place immediately. She said it smelled wet even when the heat was running. The town itself barely felt real. Black pines, one gas station, one grocery store, one church, no traffic lights, the kind of place where every person stares at you too long in the supermarket. It snowed almost every day after we arrived. The house sat near the woods at the end of a dead road. 2 stories, pale yellow paint peeling from the siding. Massive front windows that looked black at night. I remember the landlord acting strange during the walkthrough. He kept glancing toward the upstairs hallway. Not at us, at the hallway. Before he left, he said something that stuck with me. Keep the upstairs light on. After midnight. Dad laughed. The landlord didn't. Then he handed us the keys and drove away before we could ask anything else. At first, the house seemed normal. Cold, but normal. The problems started on the 3rd night. I woke up around 2:13 a.m. because I heard footsteps outside my bedroom. Slow footsteps. Not pacing. Not walking. Dragging. I sat up in bed listening. The hallway light glowed beneath my door. Drag. Pause. Drag. Pause. I assumed it was Dad. Maybe he couldn't sleep. Then the footsteps stopped directly outside my room. Silence. I waited. After about 30 seconds, I heard breathing. Not loud. Just enough to hear someone standing inches away on the other side of the door. I called out, "Dad!" The breathing stopped instantly. Then the footsteps continued down the hallway. Drag. Pause. Drag. Pause. Toward the staircase. I got out of bed and opened my door. Nobody there. The hallway was empty. The upstairs light flickered weakly overhead. I checked my parents' room. Both asleep. Dad snoring. I told myself the house was settling. Old houses make noise. That explanation lasted exactly one more night. The next evening, my mom asked if I had been standing in the hallway. I looked up from dinner. "What?" "Around 1 this morning," she said. "I saw someone outside our room." Dad rolled his eyes. "You probably saw shadows." "No," she said quietly. "I saw someone." Then she looked directly at me. "I thought it was you." I told her I'd been asleep. Mom didn't answer. That night she left the hallway light on. At 2:13 a.m., I woke again. Same dragging footsteps. This time they were closer. I sat frozen under my blanket while they moved slowly toward my room. Drag. Pause. Drag. Pause. Then came a noise I still hear sometimes when I'm trying to sleep. A fingernail running slowly across wood. Scrape. Across my bedroom door. Couldn't breathe. The scraping continued softly. Back and forth. Like whoever stood outside was feeling the door. Then something. G whispered. Not words. Just whispering. Several voices layered together too quietly to understand. I stayed under my blanket until morning. When sunlight finally came through my window, I opened the door. There were scratches on the wood. 3 long grooves. Fresh. Dad blamed old paint peeling. Mom stopped sleeping upstairs after that. She began falling asleep on the couch downstairs with the television on. Things got worse anyway. Doors opened by themselves. Cabinets slammed upstairs in the middle of the night. Our dog Ranger refused to go near the 2nd floor. The weirdest part was the hallway itself. Felt longer after midnight. I know how stupid that sounds. During the day, there were 4 doors upstairs. My room, my parents' room, the bathroom, the storage room at the very end. At night, though, the hallway seemed stretched. like the storage room was farther away. One night, I counted my steps. During the day, it took 11 steps to reach the storage room. At 1 a.m., it took 17. I measured 3 times. Always 17. I didn't tell anyone. A week later, school started. That's where I met Noah. Noah lived in Black Pines his whole life. Quiet kid. Skinny. Always looked exhausted. When I mentioned my address, his face changed. "You live there?" "Yeah." He stared at me, then asked, "Do you hear walking at night?" Every hair on my arms stood up. I asked how he knew. Noah wouldn't answer at first. Finally, he said his cousin used to live in our house. Only for 3 months. Then they left. His cousin stopped talking after that. That afternoon, Noah told me something I've never forgotten. "Don't look down the hallway if the light turns off." I laughed nervously. He didn't. "Seriously," he said. "If it goes dark, keep your door shut." I asked him what was in the hallway. Noah looked toward the classroom windows. "People say it used to be longer." That night I couldn't sleep. Snow hammered the windows. The house creaked constantly. At exactly 2:13 a.m., the upstairs light went out. Not flickered. Off. The hallway outside my room became completely black. Then came the dragging footsteps. Closer than ever. Drag. Pause. Drag. Pause. I pulled my blanket over my head. The footsteps stopped outside my room. Silence. Then 3 knocks. Knock. 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 A woman's voice whispered from the hallway. "Daniel." My blood turned cold. Daniel was my dad's name. Another knock. Daniel opened the door. It sounded exactly like my mother. But my mother was downstairs. I knew she was downstairs. Then I heard something impossible. My mom screamed from downstairs. A horrible, terrified scream. The voice outside my bedroom door stopped speaking. Then it laughed. It was wrong. Too deep. Too many voices layered together. The footsteps sprinted down the hallway. Not dragging anymore. Running. I heard doors slam. Furniture crash. My father yelling. Then silence. Absolute silence. I opened my bedroom door. The hallway light flickered back on. Dad stood at the staircase breathing hard with a baseball bat in his hands. Mom sat crying on the living room couch downstairs. "What happened?" I asked. Dad looked pale. "I heard your mother calling me from upstairs," he said. Mom stared upward. "I heard you calling me from the basement." "We didn't have a basement." Dad checked the entire house. Nothing. No intruder. No footprints. No open windows. But the storage room door upstairs was open. That was new. We'd never managed to open it before. The handle always jammed. Dad stepped inside first. The room was tiny. Just insulation, dust, old shelves, and a square opening in the back wall, about 4 feet high. Then he stopped talking. "Daniel?" Mom asked. Silence. "Dad?" A long pause. Then Dad's voice echoed weakly from inside the wall. "There's someone down here." Mom grabbed his leg instantly. "Get out." Dad backed out quickly after that. His face looked wrong, like all the blood had drained from it. He sealed the opening with plywood the next morning. That should have been the end. It wasn't. The noises became worse after the opening was covered. Now the footsteps came every night, sometimes multiple sets. Dragon. G slowly through the walls. Whispering followed us through the house. Ranger began growling at corners for no reason. Then he disappeared. Dad searched the woods for hours. No tracks. No blood. Nothing. 3 days later, we found him sitting in the upstairs hallway facing the storage room. Dead. No injuries. Just dead. His eyes were completely white. Mom wanted to leave immediately after that. Dad refused. We didn't have money for another place. That night he nailed the storage room shut. I remember the hammering echoing through the house. Bang, bang, bang. Every hit made the walls creak. At dinner, nobody talked. At 2:13 a.m., I woke to a new sound. Knocking. Not on my door. Inside the walls. Slow, rhythmic knocking. Bang, bang, bang. Like something moving through the house. I heard my father get up. His bedroom door opened. Then his footsteps moved into the hallway. "Hello?" he called. The knocking stopped. Silence. Then came a voice from the storage room. "Daddy." Sounded like me. Exactly like me. I heard Dad freeze. Another knock. "Daddy, help me." My bedroom door slowly opened. Dad stared at me standing there. Real me. His face went gray. Because the voice was still coming from inside the wall. "Please let me out." Dad backed away from the storage room. The voice inside the wall began crying. It sounded terrified. "Something. G is down here with me." Then another voice whispered beneath it. "Deep, wet, open it." Dad grabbed me and shoved me downstairs. Mom was already awake. The three of us stayed in the kitchen until sunrise while footsteps moved upstairs all night. The next morning, Dad called the landlord. No answer. He drove into town instead. When he returned, he looked shaken. "The landlord died 8 years ago," he said. Mom thought he was joking. He wasn't. The man who rented us the house had apparently died inside it. Heart attack. At least officially. Dad spoke to someone at the gas station who remembered him. According to the locals, the house had been empty most years since. Families moved in. Families moved out. Fast. One family vanished entirely. Nobody in town liked discussing it. Especially the hallway. Dad started drinking after that. Mom stopped speaking much. And every night at 2:13 a.m., the footsteps returned. Always closer. One night I woke because someone was standing beside my bed. I could feel them there before I opened my eyes. You know that feeling when another person is in the room? That pressure. I opened my eyes slowly. The hallway light shone faintly through my doorway. A silhouette stood over me. Tall. Too tall. His head nearly touched the ceiling. Couldn't see a face. Only darkness. Then it leaned closer. The smell hit me first. Wet dirt. Rotting leaves. Its voice sounded like dozens of whispers speaking together. Wrong room. Then it walked out, dragging one leg. I didn't move until morning. The next day, snow trapped us inside. Power lines went down across town. By evening, the house was freezing. Dad lit candles downstairs. The shadows in the corners looked alive. Around midnight, the knocking started again. Inside the walls. Bang, bang, bang. Except now it came from every direction. Above us, beside us, below us. Something scratched behind the kitchen walls. Mom began crying. Dad finally snapped. He grabbed his flashlight and crowbar. "I'm ending this." Mom begged him not to go upstairs. He ignored her. I followed anyway. The upstairs hallway looked different in candlelight. Longer. Much longer. The storage room seemed impossibly far away. Dad stopped halfway down the hall. "Do you see that?" he whispered. First I didn't. Then I realized the hallway had more doors. There should have been 4. Now there were at least 10. All identical. All slightly open. Darkness inside each one. The hallway light overhead buzzed weakly. Dad aimed the flashlight down the corridor. The beam never reached the end. Then one of the doors creaked wider. A face peeked out. My face. Pale. Smiling. "Dad." It whispered. Another door opened. Mom stepped out, except her neck bent sideways unnaturally. Then another, and another. Copies of us filled the hallway. Some smiling, some crying, some missing pieces of themselves. all whispering at once. Stay. Help us. Don't leave. Dad grabbed my arm and ran. The hallway stretched endlessly behind us. Doors slammed open. Figures poured out. Dragging footsteps thundered across the floor. I looked back once. Something enormous moved in the darkness at the far end of the hallway. Too big for the ceiling. Its shape bent around the walls like a spider unfolding. Eyes blinked open inside the dark. Dozens. Dad dragged me downstairs. Mom screamed when she saw us, because something followed. One of the copies. It wore my face. It stood at the top of the stairs smiling. Then its mouth opened too wide. Far too wide. Please let me in, it whispered. Dad slammed the basement hatch. We didn't have a basement hatch before, but suddenly one existed in the kitchen floor. The thing upstairs began walking. Drag, pause, drag, pause, around the ceiling above us. Then came more footsteps. Dozens. The walls started knocking back. Bang, bang, bang. The copies upstairs began speaking in our voices, sometimes laughing, sometimes screaming. One sounded exactly like my grandmother, even though she'd been dead for years. Dad finally admitted something then. When he explored the hidden hallway earlier, he saw people standing inside it, facing the walls, not moving. He thought they were mannequins at first, until one turned around. It had his face. He never told us, because he thought he was hallucinating. The footsteps stopped suddenly. Silence filled the house. Then the front door opened upstairs. Cold air drifted downward. A voice called from above. Daniel, the lawn. Lord. Dad went pale. Another voice answered. His own. We found another family. Then came laughing. A whole crowd laughing together. The kitchen lights exploded. Glass rained across the floor. Something slammed against the basement hatch from above. Once, twice, then claws ripped through the wood. Long black fingers pushed downward. Mom grabbed me. Dad swung the crowbar. The thing screamed. Not loud. Wet. Like air escaping a flooded lung. The hatch burst open. Darkness spilled downward. Not metaphorically. Actual darkness. Like black smoke pouring into the room. Shapes moved inside it. Faces. Hundreds of faces. All whispering. Stay with us. Dad shoved us toward the back door. Run. We did. Snow blasted sideways outside. I looked back once. The upstairs windows were full of people. Copies. Different versions of us staring outward. Some old. Some decayed. Some barely human. One version of me pounded desperately against the glass. Then something huge moved behind them. The entire second floor bulged outward unnaturally. Like something inside the house was unfolding. Mom and I reached the road. Dad never came out. Police searched the house the next day. They found nothing. No basement. No hidden hallway. No sign of Dad. The upstairs was completely normal. For doors. Short hallway. Empty storage room. Mom and I left Black Pines that same week. Nobody believed us. Years passed. Mom refused to talk about the house again. Eventually she convened. Said herself Dad abandoned us. Maybe she had to, but I know what happened, because sometimes I still hear the hallway, even now, always at 2:13 a.m., dragging footsteps, knocking inside the walls, and once every few years, I get phone calls from unknown numbers. When I answer, there's only static. Then my father's voice whispers, "Don't let it learn your voice." The last call came 3 nights ago. This time he sounded weak, older, terrified. He said something new. There are more hallways now. Then I heard other voices around him. Copies, hundreds of them, all speaking at once. And before the line disconnected, I heard one final thing. dragging footsteps, getting closer. Last night, my apartment hallway light burned out at exactly 2:13 a.m. I opened my bedroom door to check the breaker. The hallway outside my apartment looked wrong, too long, and at the far end, I saw a door that has never been there before, slowly creaking open. Something inside whispered my name. I haven't slept since, because every hour the hallway gets a little longer. That's all for this creepypasta, and see you until the next one.